In 2016, one gun sold for $2.6 million, making its owner an instant millionaire. What made this gun so valuable? The answer might shock you. So, let's learn about 12 guns that turned ordinary people into millionaires. Number 12. Browning M1911. Designed by John Browning, the M1911 pistol became a military standard when adopted by the U.S. Army in 1911. Chambered in .45 ACP, it provided the necessary stopping power after the Philippine-American War. With over 2.7 million units produced across both world wars, the M1911 remained standard military issue until replaced by the Beretta M9 in 1985. Colt began producing commercial versions in 1912, with early models boasting superior craftsmanship, such as tighter machining and more defined grip checkering. Between 1912 and 1925, Colt made around 40,000 commercial M1911 pistols, which are now highly valuable. A 1913 Colt commercial model sold for $63,250 in 2019. Military M1911 models from World War I typically sell for $3,000 to $8,000, while rarer World War II versions, especially those made by Singer, only 500 produced, have commanded as much as $414,000 at auction. Collectors who purchased surplus M1911s in the 1960s for around $50 now see their investments worth 50 to 100 times that amount. Number 11. Remington Model 11 Shotgun. Introduced in 1905, the Remington Model 11 was one of the first semi-automatic shotguns based on John Browning's long recoil design. Manufactured until 1948, over 850,000 units were produced, available in 12, 16, and 20 gauges. Early versions made between 1905 and 1920 featured better wood and metal finishes, with special editions commanding premium prices. A premier-grade Model 11, with engraving and gold inlays, sold for $28,750 in 2018. Standard models in excellent condition range from $500 to $1,200, while rare engraved versions can fetch $15,000 to $40,000 at auction. Remington also made military variants during World War II, and a military version sold for $3,450 in 2020. Collectors who bought surplus models in the 1950s for $30 now hold firearms worth 10 to 50 times their original purchase price. Number 10. Winchester Model 94. The Winchester Model 94, introduced in 1894, became one of the most popular lever-action rifles, with over 7.5 million units sold by 2006. It was the first American sporting rifle chambered for smokeless powder, using the .30-30 Winchester cartridge. Early rifles, produced before 1905, hold substantial value, with a 1894 first-year production model fetching $12,650 in 2019. Standard Model 90s from the 1950s and 1960s typically sell for $800 to $1,500, but special editions like the Buffalo Bill commemorative set, which sold for $175 in 1968, now fetch $3,000 to $5,000 in excellent condition. Collectors who preserved these special editions can see returns of 15 to 20 times their initial investment. The shift from pre-1964 to post-1964 manufacturing standards also affects values, with pre-1964 rifles reaching up to $2,500 in excellent condition. Number 9. Civil War era Colt percussion revolvers. During the Civil War, Colt produced numerous percussion revolvers, including the Model 1860 Army and Model 1851 Navy, with over 400,000 units made. The Model 1860 Army, chambered in .44 caliber, was widely used by both Union and Confederate forces. a documented 1860 Army with clear military markings sold for $17,250 in 2018. Civilian versions, often more finely crafted, can reach values up to $34,500, as seen with a Model 1851 Navy with proven Civil War ownership. In the 1950s and 1960s, these revolvers were purchased for $150 to $500 and now command 10 to 50 times that value. The combination of historical importance, rarity, and good condition fuels their sustained value, making them highly sought after by collectors. Number 8. German Luger P08. The Luger P08, designed by Georg Luger and adopted by the German military in 1908, is one of the most iconic pistols in history. Produced in both military and commercial variants, the Luger's toggle action mechanism was groundbreaking World War I-era Lugers, especially artillery models with 8-inch barrels, fetch premium prices. A 1917 artillery Luger with matching numbers and provenance sold for $23,000 in 2019. Standard military Lugers from World War I can sell for $2,500 to $6,000. Commercial versions, particularly pre-1914 models, can command significant premiums, with a 1900 DWM Luger selling for $28,750 in 2018. Early Lugers bought in the 1960s for $100 to $300 now see value increases of up to 70 times their original price, with rare models fetching six-figure amounts. Number 7. Mauser C96. The Mauser C96, a semi-automatic pistol produced from 1896 through 1937, is recognized for its distinctive design. Featuring a box magazine ahead of the trigger guard early models, particularly those made between 1896 and 1900, are highly valued. A 1897 Mauser C96 with matching accessories sold for $23,000 in 2019. Military contract variants like the Red 9, produced for the German military during World War I, are also highly sought after. These models sell for $12,650 with original military markings and documentation. Commercial variants from the 1920s and 1930s are valued between $1,800 and $3,500. Collectors who acquired Mauser C96 in the 1960s for $150 now hold firearms worth up to 50 times their initial investment, depending on the variant. Number 6. Winchester Model 1873. Winchester's Model 1873 lever-action rifle, chambered in .44-40 Winchester, was produced from 1873 to 1919, with around 720,000 units made known as the gun that won the West. It became popular among settlers and lawmen. First-year models, 1873 to 1879, are highly sought after, with pristine examples selling for $32,200. Special orders, like engraved versions with gold inlays, can reach prices up to $149,500. Collectors who bought these rifles in the 1950s to 1970s for $150 to $500 now see their investments worth 10 to 50 times more. A Model 1873 owned by a historical figure sold for $1.26 million in 2016, highlighting how provenance dramatically increases value. Number 5. Colt Python Revolver. Colt introduced the Python revolver in 1955 as a premium double-action revolver chambered in .357 Magnum. The design featured a ventilated rib, full underlug, and extensive hand fitting of internal components. Production continued through 2005 with a brief hiatus before resumption in 2020. Original production from 1955 to 2005 totaled approximately 150,000 units. The extensive hand fitting and labor-intensive production limited output and created high manufacturing costs. Early production Python revolvers from the 1950s and 1960s show the highest quality standards. Barrel lengths included 2.5, 4, 6, and 8 inches, the rare 2.5-inch barrel configuration, produced in limited numbers, commands substantial premiums. A 2.5-inch Python from 1956 with original box and documentation sold for $18,400 in 2019. The revolver retained 99% original finish. Standard 6-inch Python revolvers from the 1960s in excellent condition sell for $4,500 to $7,000. Later production from the 1990s and 2000s sells for $2,500 to $4,000. Nickel-plated Python revolvers produced in smaller quantities than blued versions command 20 to 30% premiums. A nickel 8-inch Python with original box sold for $9,200 in 2020 royal blue finish, discontinued in the 1970s, shows premiums over standard blue finishes. Python revolvers with royal blue finish in excellent condition command $5,500 to $9,000 depending on barrel length and configuration. The combination of superior finishing, accuracy potential, and discontinued production drives sustained collector demand. Collectors who purchased Python revolvers during original production periods paid retail prices from $125 in the 1950s to $800 in the 2000s. 1960s, Python purchased for $150 now sells for $5,000 to $7,000, representing increases of 30 to 40 times initial investment. The 2020 production resumption with simplified manufacturing processes creates clear distinction between original pre-2005 production and current models. This distinction maintains values for original production examples despite renewed availability. Number 4. M1 Garand. The M1 Garand semi-automatic rifle achieved U.S. military adoption in 1936. John Garand designed the gas-operated rifle chambered in 30-006 Springfield. The 8-round en-bloc clip system provided faster reloading than bolt-action rifles. Production occurred at Springfield Armory and Winchester Repeating Arms, with total manufacturing exceeding 5.4 million units through 1957. The rifle served as standard infantry weapon through World War II and the Korean conflict. Springfield Armory production accounts for the majority of M1 Garand rifles. Serial number ranges and specific manufacturing features identify production periods. Early production rifles manufactured before American entry into World War II in 1941 show highest collector interest. A Springfield Armory M1 Garand with serial number below 100,000, indicating pre-war production, sold for $8,625 in 2019. The rifle retained 90% original finish with correct period components. Standard World War II production Springfield M1 rifles in excellent condition sell for $1,800 to $3,500. Winchester produced approximately 500,000 M1 Garand rifles between 1943 and 1945. Winchester production features distinctive WRA cartouches and specific proof marks. Winchester M1 rifles command premiums of 20 to 30% over comparable Springfield production. A Winchester M1 Garand in excellent condition with all matching Winchester components sold for $5,750 in 2020. The rifle retained original barrel, stock, and internal components confirmed through serial number matching. The Civilian Marksmanship Program distributed hundreds of thousands of surplus M1 Garand rifles to qualified civilians since the program's inception. Early CMP acquisitions during the 1960s through 1980s cost approximately $150 to $300, depending on grade and condition. Current values for service-grade M1 rifles reach $1,200 to $2,000. Collector-grade examples with original finish and matching components command $2,500 to $5,000. Individuals who acquired multiple M1 rifles through CMP programs and maintained them properly realized returns of 5 to 15 times initial investment. Number 3. Thompson submachine gun. John Thompson developed the Thompson submachine gun with production beginning in 1921. The design featured 45 ACP chambering with selective fire capability. Early Colt manufactured Model 1921 variants featured machined receivers, elaborate sights, and premium finishing. Production costs exceeded $200 per unit in 1920s dollars, limiting commercial success. Military adoption increased during World War II with simplified Model 1928, A1 and M1 variants, reducing manufacturing complexity. Original Colt Model 1921 Thompson submachine guns manufactured before the National Firearms Act of 1934 number fewer than 15,000 units. These early examples, registered during the 1934 NFA amnesty period, remain transferable to civilian ownership. The Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986 closed the machine gun registry, fixing the supply of transferable Thompson submachine guns. A Colt Model 1921 with original drum magazines and accessories sold for $103,500 in 2019. Standard Colt 1921 Thompsons without accessories sell for $45,000 to $75,000. World War II production models manufactured by Auto Ordnance and Savage Arms total approximately 1.5 million units. Military selective fire examples registered before 1986 remain transferable. An M1A1 Thompson manufactured by Savage in 1944 with documented military service sold for $34,500 in 2020. Standard M1 and M1A1 Thompsons in transferable status sell for $25,000 to $40,000 depending on manufacturer and condition. The fixed supply and continued demand create consistent value appreciation. Collectors who acquired transferable Thompson submachine guns during the 1970s and early 1980s paid approximately $1,500 to $5,000, depending on model and condition. Current values represent increases of 10 to 30 times initial investment. The 1986 registry closure created immediate price escalation. Individuals who recognized the significance of the registry closure and acquired multiple transferable machine guns before 1986 realized substantial returns as values increased consistently through subsequent decades. Number 2. Winchester Model 1866. Winchester introduced the Model 1866 lever-action rifle, nicknamed Yellow Boy, due to its brass receiver. The design improved upon the Henry rifle by adding a loading gate on the receiver side chambering in .44. Henry rimfire provided adequate power for hunting and personal protection. Production continued from 1866 through 1898 with total manufacturing of approximately 170,000 units. The rifle represents early lever-action development and Winchester's emergence as a major firearms manufacturer. First model production from 1866 to 1867, identified by specific mechanical features, shows highest collector values. A first-year production model 1866 with serial number below 5,000 sold for $57,500 in 2018. The rifle retained 75% original finish with matching serial numbers. Later production models in excellent condition sell for $8,000 to $25,000, depending on configuration and condition. Carbine variants with 20-inch barrels command premiums over standard rifle configurations. Factory special orders including engraving, premium wood, and unusual calibers multiply values substantially. A deluxe model 1866 with factory engraving sold for $126,500 in 2016. The rifle featured extensive scroll engraving and gold inlays with documented factory records confirming original configuration. Standard production rifles purchased during the 1950s through 1970s cost approximately $200 to $600. Current values represent increases of 20 to 50 times initial investments for standard examples. Documented historical provenance creates extraordinary value multipliers. A Model 1866 with authenticated ownership by a named historical figure sold for $1.04 million in 2016. The documentation included period photographs, letters, and family records, establishing continuous chain of ownership. This sale demonstrates that provenance documentation can increase values 10 to 20 times beyond comparable examples lacking historical connections. Collectors who maintained detailed ownership records and supporting documentation for their firearms realized substantially higher returns. Number 1. Colt Single Action Army. Colt introduced the Single Action Army revolver in 1873 with military adoption as the Model 1873. Chambering in .45, Colt provided adequate stopping power meeting military requirements. The design featured single-action mechanism requiring manual cocking before each shot. Production continued through 1941 in first-generation manufacturing, resumed in 1956 through 1974 in second generation, and continues in third-generation production from 1976 forward. First-generation production totaled approximately 357,000 units. Early first-generation production from 1873 to 1880, particularly serial numbers below 50,000, command highest collector interest. A documented 1875 Colt Single Action Army with serial number 16,714 sold for $345,000 in 2018. The revolver retained 98% original finish with matching serial numbers and documented military unit assignment. Standard first-generation military issue revolvers in excellent condition sell for $8,000 to $25,000, depending on markings and condition. Civilian production examples from the same period command $6,000 to $20,000. Caliber variations affect values substantially. While .45 Colt represents the most common chambering, variations in .44-40, .38-40, .32-20, and other calibers show collector premiums. A first-generation single-action Army in .44-40 with matching serial numbers sold for $28,750 in 2019. Uncommon calibers like .41 Colt or .38 Colt achieve premiums of 30 to 60% over standard .45 Colt examples. Factory documentation confirming original caliber and configuration adds 20 to 30% to values. The highest documented sale of a Colt Single Action Army occurred in 2016 when a revolver attributed to George Armstrong Custer sold for $2.6 million. The revolver featured documented provenance through multiple generations of family ownership with supporting letters and photographs. This sale demonstrates the extraordinary values possible when historical significance combines with authenticated provenance. A collector who inherited this revolver from family holdings realized returns impossible to quantify given the generations of family ownership. Standard first-generation Colt Single Action Army revolvers, purchased during the 1950s through 1970s, cost approximately $150 to $500, depending on condition. Current values of $8,000 to $25,000 represent increases of 20 to 100 times initial investments. Exceptional examples with rare calibers, factory engraving, or documented provenance show even greater appreciation. Collectors who recognize the historical significance of first-generation production and acquired multiple examples during periods of modest pricing realize substantial wealth accumulation through patient holding and proper preservation. The pattern across these 12 firearms demonstrates that historical significance, manufacturing quality, limited production numbers, and authenticated provenance create sustained value appreciation spanning decades, transforming modest initial investments into substantial wealth.